Hey guys, VaulSC here, and welcome to another episode of Let's Build Some Lists. I know you guys, well, some of you guys at least enjoy coming with me as I go through the Army app and try and build some new lists that I haven't been building before. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with this particular video series, it's all about sharing my thoughts as I go and try and come up with interesting or exciting or just ideas that I haven't tried before. It's not so much about me trying to build the optimal list, because you'll see that in my bat reps and my army review videos and on the internet in general. So this edition of Let's Build Some Lists is just going to be about the new book, Daedalus Falls. I've been thinking about doing like a holistic, review the entire book thing, like I kind of, said that I was going to, and then turned it into an April Fool's joke. But I think the better way to do that would be like over the next number of months, just do individual videos for each of the sectorials that came out. Otherwise, that video is just going to go on for too long. So what we're going to do today is I am going to just go through each of the sectorials that came out and build one interesting, exciting list for each one. Not necessarily the best list that I can build. In some cases I will go for that sort of way, but, just gonna, as always with the segment, got my glass of wine here, just gonna get drunker and drunker and drunker as we get through the evening, and join with me, open up a copy of Army 6, and we'll get into it. My most recent Army review video was actually of the good old Shazvasti. Let me just see if I can move my cam out of the way. Here we are. There we go. Good old Shazvasti. So you've already heard me talking about Shazvasti quite a bit, and it's mostly been Shishkin, Shishkin, Shishkin. And indeed, Shishkin is the best, way to win with Shazvasti. Put her in your list and watch her roll a million crits. But to have a bit of fun today, why don't we try and come up with an interesting Shazvasti list that doesn't include Shishkin, just to be a bit fancy with it, and just see what all sorts of interesting profiles we can discover and combinations we can build out there. So what I was thinking of is talking a little bit about this really fascinating Speculo killer profile with Mine Layer. What if we start by slapping that guy in there? Interesting thing about the impersonation rule in general is that it's very, very powerful if you've got the first turn and you've got your impersonator as a reserve trooper, and you look at where your opponent's army deployed, and you go, right, I'm going to slap my Speculo or Fide or whatever it is there and go after those juicy cheerleaders or that lieutenant or whatever it may be. But impersonation's not that good if you need to get into their deployment zone and can't because you fail the roll. Or, for example, it's one of those missions where they've got a massive deployment zone and you've got to sort of stay out of it because you're too scared to make the roll. Or, of course, if you've got second turn. So I love the idea of going with an impersonator model in scenarios where going second is a really good idea, so your opponent may just pick second right off the bat, giving you the chance to cripple them right off the bat with a Speculo, or have the Speculo out in the midfield to help you win the game from the perspective of the second turn. For example, if you're playing a mission like Safe Area or Transmission Matrix or Frontline, your Speculo can safely set up in the zone that it's going to need to be and just stay there until the end of the game, and it's going to help you fight off your opponent's attempts to move models into those zones. With that in mind, we've got the Speculo Mine Layer, who can either sit next to your opponent's deployment zone and have a mine within range of their models right from the very first order, or try to roll for it and get into their deployment zone and have the mine in there as well, which is, mind-blown potential there. Or even just have your mine out in the midfield. I know it's expensive, but sometimes you've just got to bite the bullet and cut it back to that. So, because Shazvasti, is the sectorial that allows you to have availability too, let's put two of them in there. Let's do it. Because if we're really going to go balls to the wall, the chances of passing a Willpower 14 roll when you've got two goes at it to put a Speculo killer next to their lieutenant or something like that is going to be a lot higher when you've got two of them, right? So, we're going to take one of them with the beautiful new Mine Layer profile and the other one with the boarding shotgun, just so we've got two guys to do two different things. So, if you see a beautiful opportunity to move up past the deployment zone and set off a boarding shotgun, then you'll deploy that Speculo there, whereas the other guy who needs to use his combi rifle or laser mines may be at a different location. So really love having those guys in there. Right, so they're very expensive. We've already spent 73 points, so let's go and grab our basics. We're definitely going to need Dr. Worm as always, but jumping over to the Nox troops. Where are they? Nox troops, here we go. I am going to build a little team of them. We're going to take, not the lieutenant, we're going to take a multi-sniper, I think. We might sub him out later, but a multi-sniper. No, actually, we're going to drop the multi-sniper, my bad. No multi-sniper. We're going to take a paramedic, a fort observer, and a couple of basic guys, and a Tencho expert. If you guys watch my VaulSC video, you might remember my explanation that with his veteran level 1, he can lead the team to a point where they can get within jammer range, and he doesn't get jammered and, you know, picks up the objective he needs to get to. Now, as we develop this list, I may come back and change this. You may have noticed that when I write my lists, I sometimes just put in some placeholders and see what other stuff I can reasonably afford, then come back and sub out, you know, models in this link team. So they're like slots at the moment. Okay, so one other really cool thing that VaulSC can do is to take a couple of these beautiful, beautiful Q drones. You could take one plasma, one HMG, two plasmas, or two HMGs. I'm going to put in two HMGs for now, just because I feel like I've already got two specular killers on this side of the table doing damage. I may not necessarily need to move my plasma Q drone up all the way over there and attack, because I've got models that could just spend the orders there straight away. So with two Q drones, we're definitely going to need some assisted fire. One way we can do it is to soup up the Nox troopers and chuck in this beautiful submachine gun guy. That may be the way to go. But I've been eyeing up the Victor Messer profile, just seeing that what we could do is drop one of these Nox guys, put him in there, and he can handle the assisted fire duty. That means that he's always going to have something to do, right? On top of that, though, he may want to throw down, say, a white noise, and then your Q drone can move into it and shoot up their Marut or whatever they want to have a go at, and that's going to be quite strong. Really kind of like that. So we're already at 237 points. Group 2 is not going to be particularly large, but we don't really need it to be. With an extra point, we probably could chuck an HMG in there with the Nox team, but again, I'm not really feeling like we have to. This link team, even though it doesn't really have a heavy weapon there, is more about just the order battery. Yeah, I mean, it'd be a shame to not have any heavy weapon at all, though, so maybe I will go and just take out one Nox, put in this Nox HMG, and that way we're actually using the link bonuses of the +1 burst, +3 ballistic skill, 6 sense level 2 on an actual gun. The only thing I don't like about that is we've got 3 HMGs in there where we may not need it, so maybe it would be better to drop one Q drone HMG and put in a plasma Q. Yeah, that could be fun. The amazing thing about the plasma Q is that you can throw it up into the midfield later in the game, and when you've got total reaction and assisted fire, that thing can actually be incredibly hard to crack after your specular killers have managed to snipe out and scalpel out the models that are best capable of dealing with the Q drone. So that can be a lot of fun. We've gotten to throw in the Icodron back droids, need those to provide additional orders, right? An R drone. The annoying thing about adding the R drone, even though it's a good idea, is that most players have 2 Combined Army remotes in their collection, and then you have to proxy the third one to be the R drone, which is annoying, but still, he's a good choice. Alright, I'm also thinking if we had the points, it's 260, I'd love to throw in a Shrouded, but with this particular list, I'm thinking the Tiger creatures need to be in there. We still haven't taken a Lieutenant, though, and this is usually where you'd want to go Boarding Shotgun Mentor Lieutenant with Counterintelligence. There we go, that's awesome. And the great thing about this is that your speculo attack force here can only have 1 order stripped away from their order pool, so more work to be done there. And yeah, you've got a very, very safe lieutenant who's also fairly cheap, so I really like that. And yeah, back in the camo. So Tiger creatures, we'd want to take a couple of Tiger creatures at least. That's going to put us above points, which is where we simply come back and we drop our Nox Fort Observer back down to a regular Nox. That does take away any Fort Observation abilities. If you wanted to, you could have a Fort Observer instead of the Paramedic. In fact, that might be a better way to go since the Paramedics are very unreliable. Fort Observers are good just because they've got a Flash Pulse, and there are some classifieds which require you to do some Fort Observation. So this is pretty cool. This is pretty cool. We've got Our Mine Layer Speculo killer in there, if you're feeling a little bit gambly, you can try and throw both Speculo killers into a really sweet swap behind their lines with the first turn and get some killing done. And it's pretty unlikely you're going to fail 2 attempts at a 14 or less, although I've done that, you know, a lot. And list in terms of gunning down enemy ARO pieces, well, you put assist to fire on the Q drone, or you just, you know, go, you know, Bliss score 14, you know, Nox Trooper with 5 dice on the HMG can get the job done in a lot of cases. Plenty of hacking there with Victor Mesa, although he's a bit vulnerable to killer hackers, so not the best. It'd be probably nice if we had a shrouded killer hacker in there. Love the Tensho, love the Q drones. There's going to be some games where the Speculos don't really have the best opportunity to attack, get shut down maybe by jammers or something like that, and that may be when you want to run over there with a Q drone with a plasma rifle and just use them as an expendable bullet. Also got these tiger creatures as well, which is quite fun. The Speculos may end up dropping some smoke nearby to enemy territory. So one play that you might make at the start of the game is to Speculo, throw a smoke grenade in front of their big scary ARO piece, then run your tiger creature right up to it, get in close combat with it, and either kill it with Berserk or just tie it up if it's a model that's very resilient, with a Symbiomate or something. So that is looking cool. So yeah, Shazvasti without Shishkin, I think you could run something like this. I'll drink to that. What should we do next, boys? So that's Shazvasti. I was thinking of jumping just over to the old Rama task force, because these guys are going to be really impromptu, because I've only just taken a very brief cursory look at them. So, though that Shazvasti list that I just put together was one that I'd prepared it earlier for you guys, whereas this is just going to be a bit hit and miss, and it's probably going to be more miss than hit, to be honest. So, obviously Tariq has Fatality level 2 and now he's linkable, and in my Shazvasti video I kept explaining why that was really obnoxiously stupid. But the same sort of thing applies to Tariq. The main difference, though, is that I feel like Tariq isn't as well backed up by the sectorial as Shishkin is by hers. With Shishkin, you've got a very high-tech sectorial helping her out, and the link team options are pretty good. Whereas if you really want to play Rama Task Force, I feel like you're mainly just doing it for this particular combination. Yes, there's going to be other stuff in there which is powerful, but you know, this is going to be it. What you're giving up for that is Ghazi Motiwa. That's a huge one. I don't think that they can take Daelamis. Let me just quickly check. Any Daelamis here? Not really. You can't take your beautiful impersonators. No Al Jabal or anything like that. They're missing some of the key specialists. Well, they've still got others there, but this is more of a, you know, a blunt attacking instrument for Hakislam, and they've typically not been that good at that, because they've never had the straight up armor and guns that other sectorials and factions have. Whereas that kind of changes when you've got a model that's rolling a crit in the attacking turn, like just under 41% of the time, which I find over the top. Tariq, though, can go into any fire team, Core or Harris, so that's probably going to be Ghulams, isn't it? Just bear in mind, you've got a bunch of the other ones, so he could have a whole bunch of, you know, super jumping dudes to run around with. It just becomes very expensive. Courageous also count as Ghulams, so you could mix and match it, have a couple in there. Who else have we got for fire team Core? Nafatun count as Ghulams as well. That's kind of cool if you want to bring a heavy flamethrower along with you. It's just that they're going to be similar points to the Ghulams, aren't they? Yeah. What else we got? Zaydans can be Core. These guys are a bit expensive though, so, and there's no wildcard options for them to go into the Ghulams, unfortunately. So, yeah, bringing along like marksmanship level 2 into a link team is pretty amazing, as we've experienced with, you know, the remotes sectorials. But the thing is, I mean, Tariq's going to be the spearhead, the link leader most of the time, and doing the running and gunning. Yeah, okay. And Janissaries can be Core, so you can have a pain train. But when you're able to put them with just plain Ghulams, I don't see why you wouldn't. So we come over to Ghulams here, and we're just throwing in some things that are going to be helpful. So you might put in Ghulam NCO. Reason why you want the NCO is that the Ghulam can spend Tariq's lieutenant's orders without him having to do it and break the link. And the way that works is that in your first turn, or whenever turn you're going to be moving out with him, the Ghulam is spending the orders when you're just moving. So he's the turbo boost up the board, you know, with that 16 inches worth of move in the case of the 4/4 speed guys. And then you swap the link over to Tariq and he starts shooting. So that guy's going to need to be in there. May as well throw in a forward observer. You can take a Doctor Plus just in case Tariq goes down. And I don't see why we wouldn't want to throw in an Uffatun with a heavy flamethrower as well, just to help them out with defense. And later on, we may even come over to the Kalrij, I guess, and chuck in a Kalrij. But again, it's going to be Tariq doing the shooting most of the time. I guess one heavy rocket launcher is not a bad idea, or this one, the multispectral visor level 2 guy. So let's take out the forward observer because we've got a specialist in there, and take a Kalrij with a fatality level 1 and MSV2. The reason why that's so important is that Tariq's going to be running around the table. People are going to be throwing grenades in a terrified fashion trying to avoid him, and then you take advantage of that with your MSV2 Kalrij who has super jump. So this is already looking pretty sickening. Okay, Fanhouse remotes are now availability 3, so we could easily just throw a few in there because we want a nice big robust list, don't we? Carmen John's a Batard, smoke grenade launcher, yeah, they look pretty cool. I feel like most of the action is going to be happening with the Link team though. You can take 3 Tuaregs in this list, I find that quite fun. I love the idea of having an assault hacker in there, just because he's such a good specialist and he can really shut down enemy pushes when they come out with something like a Link team that's led by Kornak, for example, the Tactical Awareness Suryats, or the Zuyong Tactical Awareness Pain Train, and you shut them down with Oblivion, provided there's no high Dow with them, for example. If you're running the Deshat Heavy Infantry Link, for example, or if you've got at least one Heavy Infantry guy in there, the Tuareg Hacker can be amazing, and obviously, very good against tags as well. It may also be a good idea to throw on the sniper or something, but we're already sort of a little bit behind on points. Okay, so we've already got a doctor in there. We could throw Lila Sharif into the Link team, but I'm not too sure if we'd need to. Pop in the lieutenant and the lieutenant decoy is always a great way to play it. Not very heavy on the points either. And let's see what else we got. Tuaregs, yeah. So to spend the extra SWCs, I wonder if we've got enough points to throw in a little a Haris. Yeah, the Zaydans apparently could be a Haris team, but have we got enough points? I'm not sure if we really would. Like, the missile launcher goes in there, and then you need, yeah, 15 points. Okay, that's not really going to work for this particular list. Okay. What to take? Possibly the heavy rocket launcher Alpha Seed. I've always been curious about whether he'd go well. I think the strongest way to play Tariq is probably to go with a limited insertion list. That way, if you do get the first turn, you've got a full 12 orders to use if you're counting the NCO orders, rather than being in a situation where your opponent strips 2 away from Tariq's team, and then you go back up to 10 with the NCO, and he still runs out of orders, so that's maybe not ideal. So I guess one thing we could do is take out the flashball spots that we may not necessarily need, have the hacker in there, have the Fasid in there, and then just try and spend a bunch of points on like a final model to throw in. Could even afford a Margariba guard if we cut a couple of things there, but I just don't really feel like we need to. Then we could have a Zaydan marksmanship level 2 sniper rifle. Always looked like a pretty good choice to me. But then again, so does the Tuareg. In terms of infiltrating specialists, yeah, the sectorial really loses you quite a lot of choice compared to the main vanilla kind of thing. So what about this guy, the Namur Experimental Operative Group? Total immunity is very good now, but he is he's not NWI. Height Dynamics 2, climbing plus. See, he's 44 points with the Spitfire for a guy that, yeah, I guess he's 2 wounds. Does he have any? He's got 6-2 speed. Oh, and they count as Ghulam, so you could even put him in with the team. Yeah, I'm not sure, I'm not sure about this guy. Nahab Aeromobile team. That could be fun, but if we're going for a limited assertion list, maybe not. Mukhtar active response unit. Love this profile here, the Red Fury guy. So he's got MSV2 and a Red Fury, which is awesome. For deployment level 1, thank you very much. Mimetism as well. Shock immunity and NWI. So that's pretty baller. This guy can only go on a 5-team duo, so he's the kind of person that, you know, since you're not going to be putting him on a 5-team, you just take him. Oh, actually, there is a 5-team Harris option, which is fun. But if we pop him in there, then we're gonna have to ditch some SWCs. Well, since I've taken my bots out, I might not need a hacker anymore. So maybe instead of that Tuareg, we make it a Doctor Plus instead. We could do that. I've accidentally added an additional lieutenant here, so we don't need that Nafaton at all. Here we go. Yeah, pretty close to it. That Doctor Plus may not even need to be a Doctor Plus. We could even have that guy as the Alpha Seed. And there we go. I've already taken an Alpha Seed. What am I doing? So now I need to take a model that can make up the points. I don't have enough for the Harris, otherwise I go over to 6. This is tricky, guys. What if I put the Mag Guard in there? Oh, there's a whole bunch of new profiles now. Alrighty, Mine Dispenser. That looks pretty nifty. Can't afford it though. I think the multi-HMG with the twin pistols is cool. So if I take out one Alpha Seed, that's quite fun. And then I put in an Engineer since we'd need one. Then it's a matter of just pulling in enough points. So let's come back to this Mukhtar guy. Here we go. Perfect. Oh, the jigsaw puzzle. Everything just fits in. But is it a good list? Probably not. Let's have a look. So Mag Guard and Engineer, I've always liked, you know, the combination of a tag and an Engineer just for defending a little bit and being awkward. Imagine you're up against this Rama Task Force list and you're going, right, I've got to get the first turn, otherwise Tariq's just going to steamroll me. So you're like, okay, let's move over there and try and kill him. And you're having to get through the Mag Guard, and you're spending all these orders shooting it. And eventually you kill it, but the only thing you've done that turn is removed one model. Then Tariq starts moving out, and he's got 10 orders, well, sorry, 9 orders because the Mag Guard's dead, plus 2 lieutenant orders, which the team can spend. And he just goes over there, and you can't really hide from him because he's got super jump, and he just mows you down with fatality level 2. So I can kind of see that kind of thing happening. The Magariba Guard really is just there to look threatening and be an ARO. This Mukhtar guy, I guess he can work quite well standing on a part of the board where Tariq is on one side, the Mukhtar's on the other. He can be pretty defensive with his nanopulses, and he's quite resilient. But yeah, he looks really cool with 6.2 speed. So for running and gunning, there's also the possibility Tariq may get a little bit unlucky at some point and die. But yeah, I love having the Cull region there with the Mark 12 and the MSV2 and the fatality and rah. So if they do throw smoke grenades, that's really going to crack them. You've got a flamethrower on the Link team, shotguns. There's just the Doctor Specialist there, so I guess Specialist and Najarun. So maybe not the best list for very specialist intensive missions. But yeah, you could easily just drop the Magariba Guard and have a bit more of a sensible list. Anyway, that was definitely hit and miss and probably a pretty half-hearted attempt at Rama Task Force, but the other list that I've studied the least. So what next? We're probably going to go do some... so that's it for the ones that aren't part of NA2. Yeah, so everything else is going to be in here. God, that wine's good. Okay, what should we do next? I'm thinking Spiral Core, because this is the other list that I haven't really spent a lot of time considering and understanding. So you guys are going to know these guys better than I can. When I first, spent the first hour sort of just looking through these guys carefully and reading stuff, I really started to feel like, hey, this is not really the best sectorial I've ever seen. Because compared to regular Toha, Well, I mean, you've already got a nerf to symbiomates. You can only have one Kael'thas specialist, so there's only 2 symbiomates out there. And you're missing Makuls for the Eclipse Smoke, you're missing Ektros and Sukiuls for the heavy guns, which are going to have the symbiomates. The MSV2 guy, the Galrail, don't have him in there, which is, you know, pretty shit. So these guys do seem like a much weaker version of Toha, and I'm all about that, but yeah, then I started looking a bit more carefully, and I'm starting to see some things which do look annoyingly powerful in the reactive turn. So they've got access to Helots, and irritatingly, still availability 3, as if they didn't learn their lesson with Varuna being annoyingly strong in the defensive turn, with like 9 decoys running around the map, all with light rocket launchers. So you can run these guys if you want to. The other thing that I noticed is that if you go to the Chaksar auxiliars, you can tag them up with a schema, right? So you take a couple of these neurocynetics guys, and just tell me if I'm wrong about this, right? So 2 HMGs with neurocynetics, okay? So you can't shoot them off in the active turn, but that doesn't matter, because you can grab a Tagma schema, and you can throw in a guy with Tricor. So just correct me if I'm wrong, this might not be legitimate, but it seems to say here that Triad, 1 Tagma schema plus 2 auxiliars, special fire team Triad. So you've got 3 of them here, and your Tagma has Tricor, so it's basically giving a 5-man link bonus, if I've read that correctly, to both of your neurocynetics HMGs, which is something I find a little bit obnoxious. So the Tagma just sits there prone in total cover, and you've got 2 Chaksar auxiliars covering parts of the board, and to crack them, your opponent has to go up against Blister Skill 14, 5 dice, and it's the Toha reactive turn. So the best way around that is, as usual, using stuff like TO Camo and what have you, ODD, getting in the right range bands, but still, because the 6 Sense level 2, they're ignoring Surprises Shot and the smoke penalty and stuff like that, and they're fairly cheap for this, so it seems a bit silly. I don't think this is the best thing in the game, but it's just annoying. I don't think anybody really likes the part of Infinity where they have to take a shootout, which is kind of advantageous to them, but they know that it could easily die, right? So the best way to take these guys out is to go in there with something like a Dakini TACBot HMG with assisted fire and a soft Turk right next to him in case the Chaksar rolls a crit. Because it's 5 dice against 5 dice, and even though the Dakini has a big advantage with mimetism and assisted fire, you know, you're still going to lose some of the time and have to spend orders reviving them, and the Toha guys just spent so little on these dudes. The Tagma do strike me as the most interesting thing about the sectorial, because they've got some profiles there that the regular Toha can't. So being able to make use of this seems quite strong. On the other hand, you know, you don't see a lot of HMGs throughout here. I mean, there's things like the Anaconda, which I think is a terrible tag. I just think he absolutely sucks. But when you come to the Tagma scheme, is great. You got MSV2, you know, and a Tricor Link, but it's a viral sniper, so very powerful. But in the active turn, you're still only throwing 3 dice, which is not really that optimal. And he can make a good reactive piece, but again, it's still just one guy, one BS15 guy with a couple of dice in the reactive turn. There are ways to beat that, right? So he's still, yeah, he's still going to have some issues against like dedicated, you know, aero sweeping active turn pieces, which there are a lot of nowadays. The other thing about the sectorial, which did strike me as pretty potent, and again, this may be just, you know, Toha can do this as well, but the Draal's Saboteurs. So this new Stratus Cloud ability does strike me as kind of strong. If I just open this page up just to remind us all what it can do. So the guy spends an order using the Stratus Cloud, right? So you go into Stratus Cloud state. So that's a whole separate thing. So it's low visibility and saturation zone, but a trooper in this state doesn't suffer the effects of it. So you're able to throw down the Stratus Cloud and then start shooting from it with an AP marksman rifle, for example, with a link team bonus, might I add. And the enemy has to go up against, they're basically just, the enemy player's just losing a whole dice from their reaction thing, down to 1, of course. So it's a good counter to something like a missile launcher on a link team, which is shooting back with 2 shots, or a TR bot. So that does strike me as strong. If we go over to the Kielsan Covert Assault unit, This guy doesn't seem to be overpowered or anything, but he does strike me as kind of interesting. So you're obviously going to throw a Keltar specialist into this list, like the cheapest chain of command guy here. And then that allows you to take a Keelsan with a Red Fury is my choice there. And he's going to be the point man who's going to actually hold on to one of the symbiomates. Then we have to go to the Drow Saboteurs, right? So Keelsan, special fire team, only with Drow Saboteurs. That sounds good. So we take, what is it, one AP Marksman Rifle guy, and your basic SMG who's not a Mine Layer. And they form a special Harris Link team. And in some of the shootouts, you've got the Drow moving up with AP Marksman Rifle, throwing down the Stratus Cloud and shooting with a, you know, burst bonus. Other times it's going to be the Keelsan, just because he's going to be in the right range band, and you want his Red Fury, and he's got a symbiote to protect him anyway. So that could be quite a strong link team here. But the Keelsan strikes me as kind of fun because occasionally metachemistry will make him even better. So yeah, metachemistry is a mixed bag, as we know, but sometimes he's going to get like a speed bonus or NWI on top of his symbiote armor or something funny like that. So that's going to be pretty cool. Like his model as well. We're already up to 7 orders though, so we kind of need to throw in a lieutenant. That might even just be a brawler lieutenant. I'm not too sure what their other lieutenant options are like. I'd have to sort of go looking around. And this is the way that I'd probably play this sectorial initially, right? Is just to have a 10 order list which has these expensive models in it, because just those two triads do strike me as quite strong. Calypsos infiltrators are always going to be, you know, very, very useful. And then we've got another 40 odd points there. One other way of doing this is to keep the Drowls in there, but not go for the AP Marksman guy, and not totally rely on the Stratus Cloud as much from that range. Like, you can still Stratus Cloud an SMG, by the way. But if you free up the SWCs, you might even be able to throw in, what you call it, Armand Lemuet here. And the thing about this is that you are playing him in a, you know, context where you can get a symbiomate. Back when you're playing regular Toha, you wouldn't really want to run him, because it's better to have a Sukiul and a link team with a symbiomate than it is to have Lemuet. But because you don't have the Sukiuls in the sectorial, and you kind of need somebody like Armand to some extent, this is where you probably can feel justified actually running him. So I quite like that. And then we can pop in Eclipsos or something like that if we haven't already taken one. So have we got Eclipsos? We're at 291 now. And at this stage, it's just going to be a matter of finding something that needs to be more expensive and boosting it up a bit. For example, that Brawler could be a slightly more expensive lieutenant. What do we have for lieutenant options? Could take one of these guys. Oh yeah, because they've got counterintelligence as well. The only thing about that is that you're not really using it, are you? Yeah. You got the advanced command Nimasata. Yeah, I think there's probably a lot of lists you can build which aren't limited assertion, where you're using a lot more of the Chaksars as well with the baggage and so forth. But I think just something like this in general strikes me as okay. Like, I'd run a list like this. Got the access to the grief operators. There's also this Kyutan imposter. Since none of this stuff really starts right next to the enemy, you could get away with something like that. Maybe if we drop the Calypsos. Oh, we don't have the SWCs for it. Yeah, no, never mind. So you're not really going to be able to take that. Yeah, so you probably do want something a bit more specialized at the end of the day. It's just annoying the Egal unit can't be a specialist. Otherwise, you'd see him played a lot more. He's a very nice model, is what I was trying to say there. Almost have enough points for another one of these guys too. So what am I missing? I'm pretty sure a lot of people watching this video are just screaming out for me to take a particular thing. Ah, yeah, okay, so what we could do is take something like this. A Rasail Lieutenant. Yeah, that seems pretty cool. Then you can just drop your Brawler off there, and you've got 10 points with which to just come back and grab a Chaksar, throw on the baggage. And the fun thing about this is you can use the Rasail to use his lieutenant order to move up the board, get the Chaksar into position, and if he dies, it's not the end of the world because you've still got your chain of command Keltar. So 6 SWCs, 299 points. It's light on specialists. I don't think I've even put any of them in there, unless these guys are specialist operatives. I've got a Kael'thas specialist, and that's about it. And yeah, this guy's not, by the looks. The fun thing about this guy is that he can be holo projected as something else, like a viral sniper in with your HMGs, but I think people are going to know that it's a Tricore. The other thing too is you could always bluff them as well by running a list where this guy isn't a Tricore, but he's holo projecting as a Tricore, so people are too afraid to take on your HMGs, but I doubt it there will be enough of a deterrent for people. Yeah. Okay, so Drow Saboteurs are specialist operatives, so there you go. So we've got both of these guys in a forward-moving Harry's team to do your specialist work, so not that bad. I mean, AROs, sure, you've got 2 Neurosynetics HMGs in Harry's team, and Armand Lemure. For attacking, we've got our little Harry's team here with SMGs, Red Fury, and Stratus Cloud, which is pretty strong. And yeah, it's generally going to be pretty well defended. So I can imagine a list like this, doing some damage. I don't know if it's the best thing out there, but generally, people have talked to me about power creep, and I do feel like this is a power creep book. You look at Shazvasti, extremely strong compared to other factions before it in previous books. Rama Task Force, well, I mean, linkable Tariq, so Fatality level 2. We've just had a look at Spiral Core. I didn't think that they were the most powerful sectorial I saw at first glance, but looking at something like this, this is pretty strong. I don't think this setup is as strong as some of the most powerful stuff you can do, and I do actually think that basic vanilla Toha is better than this, but then again, basic vanilla Toha probably still #1 in this game. No jokes. Alright, we're doing well. We're having fun. Why don't we do the Shark Company next? Because I played a little bit of the Shark Company recently. And one thing I learned from that game, obviously, is that Saito Togan can't be a specialist in this sectorial. But that's okay, because we can definitely have a Hunzakut in there. So let's try and build a really decent list for these guys. So coming over to Zuyong's, quite amazingly, they can be joined by brawlers to reduce their overall cost of the team. So we're definitely going to be wanting the Rushi. That's going to be a must. And the Zuyong guy with tactical awareness in the HMG is going to be really important. I would like to put a missile launcher in there, and I'm going to actually not take Father Lucian's 4 this time. Even though it's cool, and Miranda Ashcroft, having somebody linked in with ODD is pretty awesome, but at the end of the day, just a combi rifle. I feel like what we can do is just go ahead and throw in, your Bounty Hunter like this. Bounty Hunter here. Put a couple of them in there. And just have this as your link team. Although we don't have any specialists now, that's the only issue. So, yeah. Should we put in a specialist? Do we need a 10 bot as well? It's just hard to know. It's hard to know. Maybe this can just be like a powerful link team that doesn't include any specialists. I kind of like the idea of that, because then we can come over and we can have our Hunzagut anyway. We might even have a couple of Hunzaguts, so we're still going to have plenty of button pressing options. So to be the lieutenant, we're going to need a Gulam, because that's willpower 14. Love that. We want a hacker because we need assisted fire for our Rushi and the link team. That's going to be important. We're going to want a doctor just in case our HMG or missile launcher goes down. And we're probably going to want our dozer so we can have some tractor mules in there as well. Then, of course, can't go wrong with 3 flash pulse bots. So we've got tons of orders. We might have a couple of tractor mules in there as well. And then we can start popping in stuff like McMurra, right? So McMurra, really, really powerful nowadays. The tractor mule device has to be in the same group, though, so we better sort that out. There we go. Still got 40 points left, and we're already at 16 models in the list, which I find crazy. I kind of want to put in a bike, but McMurra's going to generate smoke really, really well. And we've already got like 1, 2, 3 silhouette full models to try and hide in the deployment zone, which is not going to be that easy. So I'd probably rather not do that. And then we've got enough points left for a Zen Shah. It would have been amazing to have a Hulang in there. In fact, I think we could still afford it. Yeah, we actually can. This is crazy. So what can I make 1 point cheaper so we can have that Hulang in there? Because that would be really cool. Is there a cheaper lieutenant than that Gulam? No, I don't really want to skip any points on that. Could we drop 1 tractor mule? We could drop the Dozer tractor mule combination. No, I like the Dozer because he's able to revive the Rushi if that goes down. That's quite important. What I might be able to do instead is just make it 1 tractor mule. So we're going to take the Dozer anyway and put a war core in. Yeah, something like this. Yeah, maybe not exactly this list, but you can sort of see where I'm going with it. So the fun thing about this is that you've got some really amazing ways of going across the board and bashing them in the form of McMurrah in one group and a Hulang shock trooper in another group. In fact, if I put Hulang up here and McMurrah over here, yeah, I mean, McMurrah honestly doesn't need that many orders to get over there, whereas the Hulang might. Does it need to be the other way around? I'm not sure. The other powerful thing is that McMurrah can basically go across the board with impetuous and irregular orders, and most likely your opponent's going to strip the 2 orders away from Group 1, right? So if that's done, McMurrah's still got the maximum orders available to him in Group 2. Not the maximum of 10, but the maximum that we've come up with for him. And McMurrah may go across there, throw some smoke grenades, and just end up in close combat with something important and kill it. And then you've got all of the orders in Group 1 to move out with your link team with the Rushi, which can see through the smoke, or the Hulang Shock Trooper, who can move through and engage models in close combat that have been smoked up by McMurrah, or come over and come out of the smoke in range to use both of his SMGs or his EM grenades or what have you. So I can envision that being really, really strong. Like McMurrah puts down a smoke right next to Unidron Link Team, for example, and Hulang moves up and throws an EM grenade on them, maybe clipping an important TO camo model in the process. Imagine him picking up a Sphinx or something that wasn't in hidden deployment. I don't know. Anyway, the stuff you can do with this setup is really, really intriguing. Yeah, I think this list here needs a little bit of work. It's a bit awkward that the tractor mule's there by itself when the allocation's 2 and blah 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 blah. And yeah, it'd be cool to have Miranda or Father Lucien's Forza in this list, but just look at it. I mean, you've got for attacking long range, you've got the HMG Blistical 16 5 dice. For defending long range, you've got the missile launcher. You got some nice smoke in there. You've got great close combat. Tons of orders. In terms of specialists, we've left this list a little bit light, but there's still a Hunsgut doctor and engineer in there to get that sort of stuff done, and it wouldn't be hard to tweak this list very much to facilitate that, right? So I'm pretty sure that we can manage it. Anyway, Deshark Company, really love this sectorial, and I can't wait to play some more games with them. Is it just Foreign Company that we haven't talked about? Is that the only one left to do from the new book, or am I missing something? I'm not going to go and talk about the little changes made to Corregidor and all that stuff. That can wait for another day. So yeah, I think it's just Foreign Company that we have yet to talk about from the book. So let's just jump into that. Foreign Company do strike me as quite a weak sectorial. They're a bit gimmicky. They're a bit more about this special link team here. We take Hannibal and the people. Other than that, I'm not really seeing a lot of really great link team options that wow me as much as what the other sectorials can do. Yeah, there's heaps of cool stuff in here at the end of the day, and they've got tools and things, but the capability, the kinds of lists that you can come up with within the framework of the sectorial just don't impress me as much as some of the other ones do. But let's just have a look at what this fancy pants link team looks like. The A team. So we want Hannibal in there, and we want to go straight for the lieutenant option with Strategos and strategic deployment. So he's going to allow our Pain Train link team to deploy further out, and because it's going to be an all-in, mission for the A team kind of scenario, that's what we're going to want. So Hannibal plus Valkyrie, we'll go grab her. Valkyrie's pretty fun. I'm going to give her a heavy shotgun just because Hannibal's already got a multi-marksman rifle. Oh, hang on a second. That's a different gun than a multi-rifle. We'll come back to that. We still kind of want a heavy shotgun to help keep points down. So Valkyrie, very, very strong in close combat, as we all know. She's tough. She's just expensive. That's the thing. I mean, she sort of has the points value that you'd normally attribute to a heavy infantry model. It's got the stats for that. I'm just not convinced that she'll get into close combat as much as you'd like her to. And even then, you're still going to be running Senior Massacre as well. And, you know, he can just as easily go in close combat and get the job done most of the time anyway. So would put him in there primarily for the sake of, I guess, the EM grenades and stuff. And again, taking the boarding shotgun just to keep the costs down. Then we want Lakshmi, Hacker of Fortune. So she's cool. She is a powerful hacker in the same way that, you know, Mary Poppins, whatever her name is, Mary Problems, is. The thing about a hacker like Mary Problems is that she actually has a killer hacking device, whereas Lakshmi has a hacking device plus upgraded from Maestro. So one key difference there is that you can't roll up to somebody's firewall through their repeater and ignore it, whereas Lakshmi is going to be up against that. So although Lakshmi is a powerful hacker, she doesn't really wow me as much as, for example, Kernau in the Link team with the Unidrons does, for example. Because although she can throw a picture out there and, you know, maestro you from range, Kernau can do it as well, but he's got a deflector to help him out, and he actually has, you know, opportunity to use Red Rum, for example, or Maestro, although you probably just want to go Maestro most of the time. The thing about Maestro is that it's not very good against hackers that have NWI or Dogged or whatever it may be, because Maestro doesn't inflict wounds, it just puts you into the unconscious state, which can be replaced by the NWI state. So yeah, she's good, don't get me wrong, she's good, but yeah, she just, again, doesn't wow me quite as much as, you know, some of the other hackers out there, Mary Problems, Kernau, that kind of thing. Still, I mean, you want to put her in there, she's pretty awesome. Is everybody else hackable? No, so the A-team not hackable except for her, which I find interesting. So then we can add a Bolt or Orc Troop. I was reading somewhere that if you add the Bolt, you can deploy even further up. I think because the Bolt is a medium infantry model. Don't know if these guys are medium infantry. And he gets a leg up. And then you can use strategic deployment on top of that. Not 100% sure how it works. You do want to be as close as possible to the enemy with this kind of link team. But at the same time, if you have the opportunity to put an Orc Trooper in there with an HMG, that's typically going to be better than just a Bolt, right? Because then your point man's got an additional wound. You know, you don't have a doctor with the team. And there's going to be some fire. There's going to be some shootouts where you're going to need to shoot at something that's beyond 24 inches, right? So that's where the HMG really comes in handy. Hannibal can handle a lot of stuff with his multi-marksman rifle, but yeah, HMG, you can't really substitute that out, so I'm going to go with that. So this link team, you want to deploy as far up as possible and just start moving towards the enemy as quick as you can. You encounter hackers, Lakshmi's meant to deal with that, and you're just meant to keep shooting until there's nobody left. But I've played so many games with limited insertion Pain Train link teams, and if you don't believe me, just start watching, you know, a few weeks worth of uploads to my YouTube channel, and you can see a lot of link teams there, whether it's Joan of Arc or Kornak or Invincible Army or Wu Ming. I do it a lot, guys, so I know. If you don't have enough orders to get around there and kill everything, then they're probably gonna counterattack and waste your link team, right? So we want a Daktari just to help if one of these guys gets hit. This is more for the Orc Trooper than the other ones, because everybody else is like NWI and shock immunity, right? So yeah, that kind of thing. This guy doesn't even have NWI, and Lakshmi doesn't even have it, so they're one wound models, even though they are still quite expensive. So what would we add to this to make it a bit more resilient if we don't get first turn? By the way, if we just get hit by like Aljabal or a Speculo and they've got the first turn, then this list can die pretty hard. It's not going to be great. I've seen a lot of people try and build, you know, more diverse lists that don't use these characters and rely a lot on the CSUs and the Securitates, for example. So that's probably a smarter way to go in general. But we're having a bit of fun with this little team, just trying to figure out what to do with them. we could take a Haris team of Neo-Terror bolts. That'd be kind of funny. But again, it wouldn't be super effective either. I mean, if you take the missile launcher, multi-sniper, and the Harris team, which doesn't cost any SWCs, by the way, that's quite fun. So you could have an entire bolt team there. That could be kind of cool. But again, you know, if they've got the right gun, they're probably going to beat these guys in a shootout if you're trying to react with them, right? I do like the fact that we've got some Crocmen there. It's only availability 1 though. Normally you'd want them to be a forward observer, but a multi-sniper, that may actually help quite a lot. I really do like the idea of taking a TO multi-snipers in lists where you're only running 10 models and you need to sort of cut off certain lines, or if you've got Hannibal and his team running out of orders on one part of the board and they're about to get pounced on by a bunch of warbands, having a really strong ARO piece to stop models that are coming towards that region can be very, very strong. So yeah, maybe he can stay. Maybe he can have a role in there. We've still got points left on the board. You know, taking in a TR bot, Laxmi can upgrade that guy as well. And again, that just may be helpful for staving off enemy troops that sort of come in. I wonder if this sectorial has access to any crazy koalas or mad traps or anything. I don't think they do though. Yeah, you've got drop bears, but again, that has to be set up, doesn't it? Yeah. Interestingly, that you could put the Orc multi-rifle or boarding shotgun with 10 blot into your special team if you're worried about Laxmi being out-hacked. That's another way you could play it. Iguana, unlike our previous list where I threw in that Magariba guard, definitely don't like this guy for that because this HMG just is not as fearsome in terms of AROs as a multi-HMG. So I find it's just not worth it in my view. Who else have we got that we haven't really run? We've got Bakunin, Uberfault Commando. We've got more zeros as well. So I like this. So you could throw a 0 out there. So you could take a 0 mine layer to help defend your deployment zone, right? And then you can also have like a 0 killer hacking device or forward observer for specialization. And that's looking pretty cool now because then you've got in the reactive turn, if you're starting that way, you've got an Orc Trooper defending a little bit with his HMG. You know, Daktari can revive him, and Hannibal and his crew will hunker down in total cover. And things coming towards your position are going to have to deal with a Crocman multi-sniper coming out of hidden deployment, your TR bot, your mine layer with a mine there to help against, say, an impersonator. So that could be pretty cool. And for button pressing, you've got the 0 hacker for that job, or Laxmi, for example. But most of the time, it's just going to be a matter of trying to get Hannibal and his crew from that forward deployed location out there. And you've got the Strategos level 1 to help you. So you've got 11 orders to try and go over there and get the killing done. And if you play your cards right, they are going to actually win some games. I played the classic sort of setup before Tactical Awareness was around with Joan of Arc or Cornac moving out there with your Pain Train Link team. And there were a lot of decisive games that I did win just by being really aggressive and really just going all in and being completely fearless with where you move your models and just hoping that you get enough kills. And it works. Even if you don't wipe out their entire army, if you've made a massive dent and you've cleared out guys nearby to you, you've also got your Orc Trooper, sorry, your Crocman and your support troopers in position to make it harder for your opponent to counter you and counterattack and use their active turn to go after Hannibal. So that's one way to play the foreign company. Although again, might be better to just go and actually create a half decent list with everybody else, right? So running Securitates and CSUs. But hey, that's not what this video series is about. It's about having fun and sharing the thought process as I sort of explain what's going through my head as I'm clicking the buttons and trying to put together a list that might, deliver you a fun and exciting game of Infinity. Woof, okay, it's time for me to get into the rest of this wine bottle, guys. So hope you enjoyed this one. Thanks for hanging out with me, and look out for more Infinity content on YouTube very soon.